Now to another story we've been watching here of late, the rape case at Duke University. We have learned the identities and seen the faces now behind the indictments we reported here last night. Covering the case for us in Durham, North Carolina tonight, NBC's Ron Mott. Ron, good evening.
Both players were identified by the accuser by their photographs, but defense attorneys say they'll be able to prove their clients are innocent.
Do you guys have anything to say?
In handcuffs, the two Duke lacrosse players were led into jail around 5 this morning. Indictments unsealed today spell out the details of first-degree rape, sexual offense, and kidnapping charges. Defense attorneys say they can prove both players were gone by the time of the alleged assault through ATM receipts, fast food receipts, evidence of a cab ride, and card swipes at a dorm.
It's hard to put in words the unfairness and the injustice of this indictment.
As for the prosecutor, District Attorney Mike Nifong, he says a third lacrosse player is still being pursued and that it had been my hope to charge all three of the assailants at the same time. Reaction at Duke and North Carolina Central University, where the 27-year-old accuser is a student, was mixed.
I think they might get away with it just because they have money.
It's going to be on a jury now. That's right. Indictments handed down, arrests made on at least 2 young men. We're expecting yet a third indictment in the Duke lacrosse rape scandal. Let's go straight to Clark Goldbend, our producer. What can you tell me about these 2 young men?
They come from some nice homes in the shadow of New York City. Nance, let's first start with Colin's home. It's in Garden City, New York.
I'm sorry. When did you get on a first-name basis with a defendant in a rape case?
Well, I'm not.
Okay, Mr. Finnerty, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Finnerty's home is assessed at...
Stephen Miller, what's your response to the indictments handed down and the arrests?
Well, I think I speak for many students when I say that we're very, very concerned that 2 innocent people may have possibly just had their lives ruined.
Lord!
You're saying it's not possible they're innocent. That's not even in the realm of possibility.
It's not possible, but a grand jury has heard evidence and deemed this fit to go to a trial.
Right, and we're saying that...
ever hearing what the victim has to say, you're saying the grand
I'm not
jury is wrong,
I'm not saying I'm convinced at all.
The victim is lying, and your first problem is 2 innocent people?
I didn't say that. I said we're concerned that it's possible that 2 innocent people may have had their lives ruined, because this case does have many irregularities and many inconsistencies.
Do you have a sister?
Yes, I do, but I would appreciate it.
I assume you've got a mother. I mean, what your first concern is that somebody's falsely accused?
Don't tell me what my first concern is, please. My first concern when I first heard these
out of your mouth. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't wear hearing aids.
No, I didn't say that was my first concern when I first heard these allegations. Was that a innocent woman had been raped. That was the first thing that came to my mind,
and I think came to anyone's mind.
But as the facts start to come out, there was many irregularities and inconsistencies that troubled me like many other people. You've talked on the show about how she had bruises on her the day after. But a photo taken at 12:03 before the alleged rape occurred shows that she had bruises and open sores on her body. We also have the 911
call. That's not
call.
what Newsweek says.
No, at 12:03.
Yeah, that's not what Newsweek says.
That in the report it says that there are already bruises at 12:03.
Let me get another reaction from Monica Johnson-Hostler, the Executive Director of North Carolina Coalition Against Sex Assault. Your response?
I think what I would say to this, Nancy, is, and as Dr. Baker spoke to earlier, that when you have rape victims, oftentimes the story would seem, as Mr. Miller just stated, irregular or inconsistent. And I think the reality is that the story often comes back to the victim in pieces because, as Dr. Baker always also said, that it's something that you don't necessarily want to recall and talk about at that point. So I think that's the first thing I want to say about this case is we shouldn't use the word irregular.
I am not going to allow Durham's view in the mind of the world to be a bunch of lacrosse players from Duke raping a black girl in Durham.
Just 3 weeks after the allegations surfaced, a stunning blow to the prosecutor's case. The DNA collected from the rape kit did not match any of the lacrosse players.
We're asking a lot of questions, sir. Can you help us sort this out as to what
But the district attorney, Mike Nifong, pressed on.
My presence here means that this case is not going away.
More and more, it seemed, it was the prosecutor's zeal for the case, not the facts, that was making news.
You know, I no longer get to go anywhere in my community without everybody knowing who I am.
Public opinion began to turn. The prosecutor seemed to be enjoying the attention too much.
There was pressure put on me to do nothing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's not doing your job.
Despite all this, Mike Nifong wasn't backing off. He began to duck the cameras he had once sought out.
I may be the last person willing to take the heat because the victim is certainly taking a beating, as is Mike Nifong, and it's really unconscionably unfair.
This DNA expert, Brian Meehan, punched a huge hole in the case when he testified that he and the district attorney had agreed to withhold DNA evidence from the defense. Withheld, it wasn't just that none of the lacrosse players' DNA had been found in the accuser's rape kit. The DNA of 5 other men was found and not disclosed. But the prosecutor still maintained he had done nothing wrong.
There was no attempt to hide anything from the way the report was done.
In his response to the State Bar's letter of notice, Mr. Nifong gave a lot of conflicting, varied explanations of what had happened. He said he didn't realize that the information wasn't in DSI's report because he was so busy with his political campaign, that he had turned over the responsibility for providing discovery to assistants and legal assistants in his office. He said he didn't turn it over because he viewed the information about the DNA from multiple unidentified male contributors as non-inculpatory as opposed to specifically exculpatory. He said that it was not included because of privacy concerns. He gave a whole host of different answers, explanations.
With the case falling apart, Mike Nifong now faced charges of his own, allegations that his behavior violated the state ethics regulations. And that's why prosecutors need to be held to such a high standard. The facts are not always as they may seem at first. This prosecutor goes on trial on Friday, facing disbarment for his behavior in this case.
The State Bar has charged Mr. Nifong with many rule violations, from making extrajudicial statements that had a reasonable likelihood of heightening condemnation of the accused and had a reasonable likelihood of prejudicing an adjudicative proceeding, to concealing exculpatory evidence, failing to provide information he was required to provide in discovery, making false representations to the court and the counsel. Any one of these, standing alone or taken together, would be conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice.
The result of our review and investigation shows clearly that there is insufficient evidence to proceed on any of the charges. Today, we are filing notices of dismissal for all charges against Reed Seligman, Colin Finnerty, and David Evans.
I agree with the Attorney General's statement that there is no credible evidence that Mr. Seligman, Mr. Finnerty, or Mr. Evans committed any of the crimes for which they were indicted or any other crimes against Ms. Mangum during the party that occurred on March 13th and 14th, 2006 at 610 North Buchanan Boulevard in Durham. Mr. Seligman, Mr. Finnerty, and Mr. Evans were entitled to the presumption of innocence when they were under indictment. Surely they are entitled to more than that now as they go forward with the rest of their lives. And that is what the Attorney General tried to give them in his declaration that they are innocent. I have admitted on more than one occasion that I have made mistakes in the prosecution of these cases. For that, I sincerely apologize to Mr. Seligman, Mr. Finnerty, Mr. Evans, and to their families.
And do you recall making statements about if they didn't do anything, why do they need a lawyer?
Yes, sir, I did.
And other matters about them exercising their right not to testify. Do you remember making those statements?
I'm not sure specifically about testifying, but I did make statements to that effect, yes, sir.
And are those statements you would have been able to make to a jury?
No, sir, they're not.
Did you think through that process before you made those statements back in the beginning of March?
Clearly not as much as I should have. I mean, I was certainly not intending or attempting to make improper statements, but I think clearly some of the statements that I made were improper.
Were violations of the rules of professional conduct?
I would have to say so at this time, yes, sir.